Hello and welcome to Living Your Yoga. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa West, yoga educator, Phoenix Rising yoga therapist, Thai massage therapist, and host of the free weekly yoga video podcast, Namaste Yoga. I'm so happy you could join us today. I will be interviewing Annie Burnside about her book, Soul to Soul Parenting. So Annie is a modern bridge between the mainstream and the mystical. She's a soul nurturer, author, public speaker, and teacher specializing in conscious relationships and spiritual development. As a soul nurturer, she helps others awaken to their own personal truths by providing spiritual support and encouragement while offering tools to balance their inner world with their exterior world. Burnside's teachings inspire others to reconnect with their spirit and listen to the voice of their own soul so that the divine connection can become fully accessible within daily reality. Her open, gentle approach encompasses all spiritual paths. And you can check out our website at soul to soulparenting.com. So thank you for joining us, Annie. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your spiritual practice, your teachers, and how you came to do the work you do today?
Sure. Thanks, Melissa. So thrilled to be here with you. I always a reflective, contemplative child. Maybe you all have some children like that in your own family. Being comes quite naturally to me. And when I was 19, my parents went through a very difficult divorce, and we'll just say it cracked me wide open, as those dark nights so often do. And it put me square on the path of what became really, I think, my sole purpose. My father gave me some outside of the box spiritual books. One was Living in the Light by Shakti Gawan, and the other was A Bridge Across Forever by Richard Bach. The books literally left me breathless. My eyes sparkled, tears streamed down my face. And from that day forward, I've really been on this self-discovery, spiritual development path. Other than my family, it's truly my greatest passion. And after teaching fourth grade for a few years and staying home with my own children, it became apparent that this would be my work in some capacity. And it's been very grassroots how it's grown. And the book really poured out from what we do in our own family. So that's in a nutshell kind of how it all started.
So that's cool. So you do this work full time now then?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Fabulous. And you call yourself a soul nurturer. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think we're all soul nurturers if we choose to be. I've had many soul to soul experiences, let's say. Some might call them mystical type experiences where I drop into a space of just oneness spontaneously at the grocery store with the bagger, where I can feel the cells vibrating. My body starts to tingle all over. My scalp has this very strong pulsation, and it's just this feeling of oneness and love, and that we share the same essence. Or I'll be driving down the road and see two kids walking with a backpack, and the feeling comes over me again. It's this pulsating illumination, maybe we'll call it. And so I think we all have access to that. And to me, that's what soul to soul is, being connected beyond the mask, the human suit, the persona, the personality. And I really desired my children, it comes fairly naturally to them, but to be able to connect to that, because it really, in my opinion, changes everything. So a soul nurturer is just very aware of that and seeks to see behind, underneath, into, rather than just at, on a superficial level.
So it sounds to me like you're quite a sensitive and intuitive person.
Yes, and again, one of my great teachers, Sonia Choquette, many of you have maybe heard of her, but taught me years ago in such a wonderful way. I've done a lot of work with her. We all are intuitive. We all are psychic. And it was really after my work with her that I really opened up those gateways. And part of the work with our children, I think, is to keep those portals open, which is why I wrote the book, which is why I began really working consciously with our own children to remember who they are as eternal, infinite, spiritual beings who are intuitive, creative, powerful. They're co-creating their own reality, and to stay awake to that. Because by about the age of 10, sometimes it begins to get covered up. So that's really my work. And it's simultaneous for the parents and the children. Because the parents are clearing their mirror of years of psychic debris,
Right. Yeah. So I wonder, I mean, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but perhaps we can back burner this question a little bit because I know in our home, in our family, we're all really super sensitive to other people's energy and things like that too. And I feel like one of my roles and responsibilities and yet challenges as a parent on my own spiritual path is that kind of extreme level of sensitivity can be pretty exhausting for myself, for my husband, for my daughter. You know, you come home at the end of the day. Like, actually, my husband, Tim, was just, replaying the events of yesterday. We were out shopping yesterday, and he was saying how when he got in the door, he was like just crawling on his knees, you know? Mm-hmm. So I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but you want to go there right now?
Oh, yeah, I'll go wherever you want. I flow with that. I've had the same thing all my life. My children have it. I mean, after some extended family, my husband has to lay on the couch. It's that exhausting.
Yeah.
But a big part of the work for me has been where, and I found it deep within my own interior, pierce that dimension where self-love merges with oneness. Mm-hmm. And I was taught to always be for other people, do things for other people, always others first, never factor yourself in. And that's been a big teaching now that I'm 41. And a big part of it, that you can still nurture another soul and offer light, but factor yourself in at every turn. Mm-hmm. And we're really working with our children on that. Because when you are empathic or sensitive, you have to be given permission for that. Mm-hmm. You don't have to return every email. You can give a high quality no. Right. And I use the example, I might be asked to do something in the PTA, and my email would be at this point, because I'm writing a second book, mm-hmm. I so honor what you're doing, and I appreciate the energy that you're putting in this school. Mm-hmm. At this time, I'm not available, but keep me posted on what's going on in the school, and I cannot thank you enough. Yeah. That type of thing. And we share that response with our children, so they know how to do it. They know how to trust their vibes, get quiet, feel, and answer. Mm-hmm. That's really what the work is. And I'm doing it right along with them. I'll share at dinner. Ooh, I had to trust my vibes today. Oh my, I was feeling a bit angry about this. I had to journal it out. I had to get to what that reflected in me versus that person is a jerk. No. I use the external world for cues, and I model that for the kids.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about your approach is that you advocate honesty and openness with your children. And I think you just spoke to it there with that example. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I just have found, the weirder we all get, but the more comfortable I've become in my own skin. And that includes the joy, the giddiness, the silliness, the dance moves, whatever it is, more humming and all. I've been more open with that with my children, and much more open and transparent about how I am growing. I use my body a lot to grow, and they know. Mm-hmm. I go to medical intuitives, I go to traditional doctors, I go to channels. I was in a channeling class for 2 years in Chicago, and that's not hidden from my kids. Mm-hmm. I'll say, wow, I've just had a herniated disc. They saw me work on that for 9 months in all different angles. Mm. I was at the channel today. This is what's uncovered. This tendency on this left side, on my mother's family, to betray ourselves for the sake of others and not speak truth. Kids, I've worked hard on this. I still have some things to uncover there. So I think that's where we're going with our children. And to me, that's a conscious, mindful family. They're ready. They're aware. You should, they look at you like, oh my goodness, but that's their groundwork for them now too. Right. If you break a leg, you don't just go get it set. Of course, do that. But also, why aren't you stable on your own 2 legs? Right. What needs to shift? And that's what I want. So it's when they're 40, that's natural to them. When they're 25, that's natural.
Yeah, so they already have the skills.
The language, the skills, the capacity to understand. We are multifaceted, multidimensional, multiple perspectives, share the same space. It just became clear, sure, they're ready, and then they'll be able to offer their gifts sooner than I could in a way, because they'll be more of a clear mirror from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. I have to share with you, we just had this most fabulous experience this weekend, myself and my daughter. I just have one daughter. She is 9 going on 10. And she said to me, I have a friend that comes into town from time to time, and she does readings on me, and I've seen her for a number of years. And so she said to me, well, next time Cindy comes, I want to see her. And she says to me, because really, Mom, there's much more to be determined in my life than yours, right?
Oh, what a doll. That's exactly what I'm talking about, you know? I mean, we do the baseball games together, do that together. It's
right.
all encompassing. Yeah.
Well, so it was totally incredible because I took her, and I know this is your interview, but I'm so excited to share.
Back and forth, mutual, yeah.
Okay, so we took her, and Cindy said, we're going to co-create this, because when she sat down, I guess she decided or realized that my daughter has quite an intuitive thing, and so she would ask her, okay, what color are you seeing now? What letters are you seeing now, to get her to spell out her spirit guides and stuff. My daughter, out of this half-hour reading, came out being able to read everybody's auras and see their spirit animals.
Wow, right? That's what we're talking about here. These are gifts. These children are coming in gifted beyond where we were vibrationally, I feel like, and we cannot drug it up. You know, I'm not saying one way or the other, but I think we need to look fully a little bit more before we just label and drug our children.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's sort of so foreign to the way I parent, but that still does go on. So I think we should probably address that. Why don't you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work being done. A wonderful intuitive in the Chicago area, Therese Rowley, is writing a book, doing a documentary. The children that she sees over and over again in her practice, that are labeled ADD, ADHD, and every family has to do what feels right to them. Absolutely,
right. I agree.
But a lot of times these kids are actually seeing or hearing more of what I'll call the mural. They're picking up on more. So in a first grade classroom, they're picking up more than the 35-year-old teacher maybe from perspective. And so it's very difficult for them to voice it. Parents aren't really in tune with that. And then it's a gift, clairaudience, clairvoyance, and it's a channel for them. And I would hate to see that closed unnecessarily. But I'm a big advocate of, look at all aspects of something and make your choice.
Well, I think you brought up a word that to me is extremely important in parenting, which is advocate. I feel like we have to be advocates for our children. As they come into their own power, it's our responsibility as their mothers to be their advocates. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. And to really begin to separate, that's why I think it's so important that parents do the work, because we project a lot onto our children unknowingly. And it might be well-meaning, but it's actually can be detrimental to them, quite detrimental. So I think this is simultaneous work. Everyone asks me, what's the first step in soul-to-soul parenting? And I would say 80 to 90% is the parent saying, it's time. I want to go down that path of self-discovery. And to me, that means two things. One is you begin looking at what you might call the shadow, things that you've denied, hidden, things that hold you back. And at first it's a little scary, but I tell you what, you begin to uncover it and it is like, I uncovered another one. Yes. You just deeper into that excavation. It's a beautiful process, ongoing, no finish line. I'm in it with you and everyone else.
Me too.
And then what that allows is in the second part, which to me is the parent can move more into what I call like a kid in a candy shop. They can do what you've begun to do, what I've begun to do, live their truth, be comfortable in their own skin, come out with their true selves, and then the children witness all of that. It gives them permission to be free themselves. So that to me would really be the first step. And if you can do that, you become a tremendous advocate for your children because the energy in the family raises. It becomes more transparent and authentic. Then you naturally, of course, advocate in the more traditional type ways probably that people are thinking about, where you speak truth to your children, for your children. That becomes just more natural because it feels organically right to do so.
Right. I think you raised something that's really important to me and has been important to my own spiritual path and work, and that is this idea of shadow work. And I know in your book you have a list of recommended readings at the end of it, and I was really happy to see Debbie Ford's work on the shadow on it. And I'm curious, what comes up for me now when you bring that up is, how soon is too soon to start introducing that idea of shadow work to your children?
Well, I've done it a lot through my own work. Again, it's so funny. I use an intuitive gratitude journal I have for years. That's where I work out a lot of, or I begin the process of working through what comes up for me from the external cues of what I'm plugged into in the world and what needs to be looked at. And in my kids all along, I mean, I'll be journaling and they know, oh my gosh, I uncovered another one. I tend to be too diplomatic or a people pleaser, and then we'll discuss it. And we talk about different life theme threads within them too. If they have an issue over and over again with a friend, the same friend, a different friend, then we'll talk about it in the sense that this is a life theme. Let's look at this. Sometimes you tend to want to people please more than speak your truth with your friend. And how can we go about looking at this differently? How can I help you feel comfortable to speak your truth? We do a lot of role play. Perhaps this is what you could call your friend and share. I'm feeling this way. I notice that often when we get together, things tend to turn dramatically, or something like that. But so they see me doing it, and then I try and help them do it so that they won't have something when they're 40 that's been hidden, not looked at, and shows up as disease in their body.
Right.
And we talk about that. We need to go through emotions now. We use an anger process, which my channeling teacher, Cheryl Node, taught me. That's in my book. Forgiveness exercises. So they really know, let's work on these things now.
Yeah.
Get them out of the vibration.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm wondering if I can share with you a particular challenge that my daughter's having right now. Maybe we could work with, and that I am having as a parent as well. I'm not sure quite how to work with it. And we can work with it together, and then you can kind of model soul to soul parenting through it.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that happens a lot for my daughter, and it happened for me at that age too, is this conflict amongst girlfriends or even other girls in the class. I think it's just pretty common. But in particular, right now, there's one girl in her class who is really, really distracting, and she's really flamboyant. She does a lot to get attention in the classroom. And it's distracting to my daughter. So as an advocate, I want to, at the next parent-teacher interview, say, this is really distracting to my daughter to have to sit right across from her. Is there something that we could do to enhance her learning? And yet at the same time, I think, wow, I don't want to just hand this child over to somebody else either, right? This is not great. So I'm curious. Let's go through that from a parent's perspective, how you would work with that with your child, that kind of thing.
Yes. Well, I'll start with soul to soul parenting. It really is, of course, ongoing. So, for example, we started family discussions 6 years ago. My kids are now 14, 13, two girls sharing a room. Wonderful times, as you can imagine. This is not about perfection, but accountability and natural consequences. And a 10-year-old. So I'm right with you on this. But years ago, we began slowly talking about self-love, soul to soul, through books, through movies, a 5-minute discussion. We use a lot of music. Lita Wise, Sweet Serendipity, his song, that's a discussion right there. You listen to the song, what's a serendipity or a synchronicity? You listen to the song again, and that's your discussion. So I'll start with saying we've laid a lot of groundwork. And so in this situation, we would have a discussion about people, being different personalities, but yet we're all connected at that eternal source. So this girl, for whatever reason, expresses herself this way. Sometimes it's lovely and it's exciting and it's vibrant, but at times, on the flip side of that coin, it can also be annoying and distracting. And really see her, we understand she's a soul, right? And kind of lay that down. But I would say to my child, but I will go and talk to the teacher, because you have a right to have some boundaries in that classroom. And I would definitely make contact. Can you please not put them at the same table? Can you please remain very present with this? Because my daughter tends to be a little bit more quiet, or likes more downtime, and doesn't want someone, quote unquote, in her face all the time. And we respect this girl, and we acknowledge she has right to be who she is. And yet I want to stay on top of this, please, for my daughter's sake. So that's how I would first go about it. This is our perspective. This is my daughter's perspective. We don't claim the other family is wrong,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
would like to do something proactively to protect my daughter's space.
Right.
Is that about how you would handle it?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think those are great pieces of advice. It's just yeah, I guess it's just the self confidence to do those kind of things, to look after your child in that way, to look after their best interests and to recognize their strengths and what they need to have the best learning environment in this situation, right? Are you still with me there?
Yeah, it just, that's that self advocacy and self love too, and
Mm.
modeling for your child. Um, we always just talk about multiple perspectives can share the same space.
Hmm.
And so our children know it's not about I'm right, you're wrong,
Right.
but we have a right to share our viewpoint, to
Right.
share our vantage point, to share the lens through which we see the world. And
Mm.
those are that's the type language that we use. And that's what I use when I call parents up too, if there's an issue.
Right.
If I might share our perspective, this is what's going on in play dates, and I'd love to hear your
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And then you sense if you can go further or not. But
Mm-hmm.
usually, people, if you don't come at them aggressively, I feel like usually there's an open. I look for that open space.
Yeah. Now you speak a lot about, and this is one of the things you brought up in the response to the question that I asked. You speak a lot about boundaries. You want to say more about that?
Okay. Yeah, it's been a missing piece for me. I tell you what, boundaries through the years, thinking when I went down the spiritual path, it was all about just the spirit, the joy, the upliftment. And it wasn't until I began to do more of the shadow work to see that I really, in my own right, yes, we're all connected. There's that oneness piece, which I deeply feel. And especially when I drop into those mystical places, there's no doubt about it. I feel it with the tree, I feel it with other humans. And yet, at the same time, it became very clear it seems like a paradox in a way, a divine paradox. And indeed, it is. We are all one and we are individuated in the physical body in this realm. And with that, loving myself and being able to say yes and no and create boundaries, it has been one of the most beautiful and important aspects on my spiritual journey. And it's something that I think a lot of people come to. That again, the self love where it merges with oneness. And for me, that's a place deep within my own interior. And once felt, it's yes, I feel soul to soul, but it becomes even stronger when I'm authentically offering my highest potential, my truth. And then you don't have to deal with the guilt, the anger, and the resentment. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have months or years of interior work to do,
Mm-hmm.
because, quite frankly, if I offer my truth and speak my truth, then
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically walk away with resentment or anger. I noticed
Mm-hmm.
that most of my anger in my life stemmed back to me for not living or speaking my truth, not
Mm-hmm.
the other person. When I really broke it down, that's what I usually ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
So it became very, very important for me to have some boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And when you brought that up in the book, one of the things that it spoke to me about was this idea, and I'm not sure if you discuss this in the book, but this idea that we do in my own parenting. I know we have to have boundaries as parents too. Like, I feel like sometimes I have to say, we can be in this relationship with our children and be fostering their growth. And then there's a time where it's also okay to say, yes, it's bedtime. I'm your mommy and I get to say that. And it's time for you to go to bed now, So this boundary of being a parent too.
Yes.
That definitely resonates for you too.
Yes, this is not at all about free for all parenting,
Right.
open parenting in what you're speaking to there. It's about being present and conscious, and we speak it like this. I know you're an eternal soul, and I am too, and we're on our own soul journeys. In this lifetime, we are together as parent and child. And I am
Mm-hmm.
in a role as parent. You're in a role as my child,
Mm-hmm.
and I will do my very, very best to parent you the best that I can. But it definitely, my husband and I are definitely the parents in the
Yeah.
house. But there's just this larger perspective beyond just this. We're together,
Yeah.
in a body for 84 years, and that's it. And I'm only your parent. for this
Right.
limited amount of time. It's a more of an unlimitedness that you stay connected to, that surrounds your parenting, that
Right.
surrounds your choices. That's really what it is. It's a enlarged perspective that's always present while you are the mother in the body,
Yeah.
speaking with your children to go
That's
to
right.
bed, do your homework, that type of thing, if that makes sense to
Yeah.
people.
You know, it makes me remember when my daughter was much younger. So we were much newer in our relationships and our roles, as I was the mother and she was the daughter. She's a very exuberant child and very, I can't think of a nice way to say bossy right now. But I would often say to her, you know what, honey,
Yes.
this time
Yeah.
I'm the mommy, right? So that was always interesting for us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So one of the things that you advocate in the book
Well, a
is
lot of people have had experiences where the child at age 3 says, out of the blue, do you remember when I was the parent? So
yeah, that was definitely the case in our home at the beginning. It was like, okay, this time I'm the mommy. And it felt like maybe it was one of the first times. One of the things that I'd love to talk about
yes, yeah.
that you speak about in the book is that you talk about being a spiritual expert in your own family. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yes. Um, I just think that it's time, no matter what religion you're part of or not, that it just struck me when my kids were 4, 7, and 8, like who really is going to model daily self-love, boundaries, forgiveness, gratitude as a high vibration energy that shapes future reality versus just saying thank you to be polite. Who's that really going to be? And it was me. It was
Mm.
my husband. And this really fits any type of family, whether you're a single family or partnership or whatever it is. But I became very conscious of the fact that my children were going to be under my roof maybe for 18 years. And there were some really important universal life themes that I really desired to have a chance to help them to remember. It's not so much teaching as
Mm-hmm.
remembering, pulling it back up into their conscious reality of who they are as multidimensional beings. So that's what I mean by becoming a spiritual expert. Get to know yourself in that way, and what you offer your children will be of a different texture. It will
Mm.
be slightly of a different perspective. And I think it's very, very important. Just as, we're a modern family, we offer our kids travel sports and this and that for
Mm.
sure. But we both agree that, by the time our kids are 25, that this will be the best of what we offered our children.
Right.
This acknowledgement of an inner compass and how to utilize that.
And the thing that I really like about your work too is that it's very practical, very grounded. Spirituality should be a day to day experience. And you offer a lot of methods for integrating the spirituality into your day to day life. Do you want to share one or two of them with us?
Sure. I wrote the book to be both practical, because I think that's very important. How do you bring this home at your kid's baseball game, at the grocery store, after
Mm-hmm.
school on a Monday afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I love the esoteric. So that's the second part of the book, the themes that we actually want to infuse in daily life. So I talked about the family discussion. I think that's very important in the beginning, especially once a week. And it's really more than a family meeting. You're going in specifically with an idea of mind of something that you would like to help your children to remember, and use everyday reality that they already love. If you've watched Forrest Gump together, that's soul to soul right there. How Forrest Gump saw everyone. He really went beyond the mask or the job description or the racial description and really felt who they
Mm-hmm.
were. And so there's a family discussion. Or you get an inspirational email, there's the discussion. So you're not, having to dig through esoteric books. This book was really written as a blueprint on how, if you love Eckhart Tolle, how you can bring that into your family. So family discussion is very important. Then that lays the groundwork. On a Monday afternoon, you've talked about self-love, multiple perspectives, and then you can, there's a disappointment on when they get off the bus, you've got that available to you because you've already touched on it. We use visual cues. I call them soul-to-soul reminders. The kitchen is a wonderful place, bedside tables, bathroom mirrors. So if we've discussed something like how conscious breath is very helpful for a powerful pause, if you're feeling out of sorts or need a minute to get in touch with the voice of your soul, then we'll make a little visual cue that says, take a conscious breath. And that goes plop on our kitchen cabinet. And I was a 4th grade teacher, so I have a little laminating machine. I love it. And we use bright yellow paper, and we have visual cues. That's another really great method.
Fabulous. So those are definitely some great tools, and you offer so many more in your book. Like, can I just ask about one more? Let's talk about the Infinite Gratitude Journal.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Did you mention it? I'm sorry, I'm still having a little bit of a hard time. What was the other one that you wanted me to talk about?
The Infinite Gratitude Journal.
Yes. The Intuitive Gratitude Journal. Oh boy. When I started it years ago, it really solidified to me more than any other probably tool that I was an eternal, infinite, psychic, creative being. And you really just start writing down any synchronistic happening. You thought of someone and they called, or you ran into them, or I use it for that type of writing. I use it for if I've been out in the world and I get a cue that I need to look at something in my own interior because I was plugged into it. It rocked my world in some way. It brought up anger. It brought up resentment, or the opposite. I was very uplifted. I was moved. I used my journal to really kind of keep track of the flow of my life. I carry it with me everywhere, and it can be a little 1 minute, thought of someone, saw them on Central Street, interesting. And then I always end every dated entry with gratitude. And my gratitude is thank you, spirit/higher self, which really for me enforces that oneness that I feel. Some people might say thank you, God/soul, or whatever works for you. But I always end with gratitude. And it's just amazing how if you allow it, your soul can really lead you through life. You get feelings, you get hits. I found it so exciting. And that's really where it began to blossom for me, that this is possible for me, not just for Eckhart Tolle or Sonia Choquette or all the big names, for me in my own right as a spirit. So I highly, highly recommend that for people. It's a great way to get started.
Yeah. I think journaling is super, super important. Absolutely. Well, you've shared so much with us today, Annie. It's been so super helpful. I want people to be able to know where to get your book. So can you tell people a little bit more about where they can get your book?
Yes, the easiest place is really my website, where then you connect right to Amazon. It's everywhere online: Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, Amazon. And also the website at soul2soulparenting.com or annieburnside.com get you the same place. But I offer family discussion topics that would be the topic, an activity, a children's book, a chapter book, an adult book, music, and movie. And I think for those of you, if anything resonated today, but you're not quite sure how to get started, I hope that would be helpful to you. It's not about, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It might give you, I've got about 20 different discussions there that you could use to get started. Because really everything to gain and nothing to lose going down this path for yourself and for your children. There's no way to not do it correctly. I just offer guidance and a blueprint from how we've done it, but this is about becoming the spiritual expert of your own family. So do it how it feels good to you.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Annie. It's been fabulous having you with us. And I want to thank you so much for watching today. I encourage you to go to my website, www.melissawest.com. And when you're there, sign up for my newsletter. You'll receive a free morning and evening yoga sequence. And also be sure to join our Facebook community at www.facebook.com/livingyouryoga to find out more about Living Your Yoga and when we have new interviews out and that kind of thing. Also, check out www.namasteyoga.tv for my free weekly yoga video podcast. Currently, we're doing a series of classes on the incarnations of Vishnu, the god of preservation. And if you enjoyed today's class, and parenting is a interesting topic to you, we have 2 kids yoga classes on Namaste Yoga. You can look those up in episode 8 and 31. So I'm your host, Dr. Melissa West. Thank you so much for watching Living Your Yoga, and thank you so much to Annie Burnside for joining us. May the rising sun bless your heart with joy, and may the setting sun bless your mind with peace. Namaste.
Thank you.
You've been enjoying Living Your Yoga with your host, Dr. Melissa West. For more information or to contact Melissa, visit www.livingyouryoga.ca. Namaste.